So, welcome to another episode on Dopamine Dialogues. And this is so synchronistic again because it is Women's Month in South Africa.
Oh my.
And this is the perfect topic and the perfect guest to have for Women's Month, actually, as we close it out. So, today, listeners, my guest is a woman of power, really, a trailblazer, Nancy Griffin, the founder of Women, Worth and Wellness, way back in 1992, which was so ahead of the times. And I want to get into that with you during the podcast. But Nancy's work is about empowering women into self. And I love the saying you have when I did some research on your work is that self-worth and net worth are codependent or so related to each other. And it's something that I'm learning now on my journey of starting a business. Um, but besides that, Nancy, you founded Women Worth and Wellness because you saw the gap in, the empowerment of women at that time, especially boomer women. And since then, you've worked with boomers, their daughters, and their granddaughters. So you are a legacy architect as well. Um, and I just love that I looked at your history and you started off as a wealth planner, which also at the time, or wealth advisor rather, which at the time was very much a male-dominated field as well. And I love that you call it wealth advisor and not financial advisor, because
Right, exactly.
I think your definition of wealth, as we'll see in the podcast, is goes way beyond finance. So, welcome, Nancy. It's so good to have you. Thank you for reaching out and for sharing your story with us.
Sarika, you're lovely. You're lovely. Really, really, really lovely. Really. Well, this has been a wonderful adventure. And who knows? You get started and you've got something in your heart that you want to share, and you just keep on building from there, which is amazing.
It's beautiful. So, my first question, might be an odd one, but your email address stood out for me, the 99, and it's probably because um, I resonate with numbers a lot. And you explained it so beautifully the first time we met. Please, can you tell us again why you chose that specific number for your email address?
Well, very simply, in Canada, we had this amazing hockey player. And everybody knows that Canada is world renowned for hockey, and we now know that hockey's in many places all over the world. But this hockey player was coached by his father. His father made it his passion to help this little kid be the best he could be, and he built a an ice rink in the backyard so that he could practice all the time. He didn't have to go to the local arena and be playing hockey games, but off time he could practice, and the kid loved it. It wasn't as though it was all about the father. It was the father being a catalyst for this young boy. And this young boy was tiny. Normally you think of a hockey player being like a football player, like you've got to be big and not brash, but really, really strong. And so this little hockey player really, really distinguished himself by his smartness. He used to get in behind the net and kind of see where the play was going, and then he could enter in and do his, trick shot to score a goal. And his whole theme, so he was number 99, was to anticipate where the puck is going, not following it, getting there. So you have to kind of see what's ahead so that you can make your best shot to accomplish what you're trying to do. And he distinguished himself with that simple attitude, that simple approach, that simple play, and that his number was 99. So that's where it came from.
I love that story, and you embody that so well, Nancy. I mean, that follows on beautifully to my next question was, 1992 was a time when women were just entering the workforce. And there were huge disparities in remuneration. I mean, there still are. But it was a time when we were just coming into, this masculine dominated world. And you saw a gap for healing in this space and left your day job. Am I right? As a
Exactly.
Yeah, to start up Women Worth and Wellness. Please tell us what inspired you to do this and how did it all begin?
Well, a couple of things happened before I got there. I was a wealth advisor and I was recruited in, or no, I was a Sorry, I was at Procter and Gamble. This is what happened before I was a wealth advisor, and I was one of the first female managers for Procter and Gamble in Canada. Hard to believe that we're still alive hearing a woman experience that. And that was a really, really big deal. And it was a man who went out of his way to say, you know what? She's training all the new recruits from university. How come she's not in that role? So he was the person who went out of his way to champion me to be a manager. Okay, so that's fine. Fast forward. You kind of get parked. It's like, well, that's your big win, Nancy, and now what? Of course, I apparently was being recruited for international assignments, but my VP at the time wouldn't put my name forward because I was a mom. I had a baby. And how in the world can a woman go travel? And I'm married, so it's going to break up a family. Well, these things are not things that I knew about until later in years. People told me I was been recruiting you. Anyway, a couple of times I'd tried to leave because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And this VP would look at me like, are you out of your mind? And then he'd give me more salary or he'd give me another assignment. Finally, I left and I ran politically. And of course, stepping from corporate to community is a learning unto itself because in a corporate situation, there's a whole hierarchy. But in
Mm,
a community situation, everybody has a voice. And so a whole new world. Anyway, I was a leader in the community in several different roles, and it was never ending. So that's when I thought I have to get a job out of this community. And I was recruited by this consulting firm, which is not one that I had worked with previously. So I met this woman who knew them. She got to know me. And she said, Nancy, I'm not sure why you're thinking about doing that for the next 20 years of your life. Because I was 39 at the time. Being 39 is a game changer as well, because you're going into your 40s, and going into your 40s is like being 110. It's menopause, it's all that old age woman stuff. And anyway, she's the one who had a bagload of money to invest, went to a brokerage firm, met with this guy, and thought, this is ridiculous. So she decided to be a wealth advisor. And that's how I got into the wealth advisory business. So one of my key learnings is, regardless of what you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're in a corporate role, whatever, pay attention to what other people think you should do because
mm,
I would never have been in that business if she hadn't done a 180 and said, Nancy, I think you. She introduced me to her boss. And of course, he said, okay, you've got to go get some licenses. Fine. So I did that, then came back. So you're about to begin. You're given all kinds of training on how to do the job well, but they say you've got to go find your own clients because finding your own clients means you're approaching people whom you feel you can add value to. Not, if there's a conflict in that relationship, you're not going to do your best job, nor is that person going to receive what you have to offer. So that's when I decided to focus on women because women were starting to earn much more than they had previously and also starting to pay attention to, what do I do? How do I put this all together? So that is where the whole creating the wealth plan came from. But to complete this whole sort of scenario and how it all came about, as I met with women, I found that they had a disproportionate amount of responsibility in their families pertaining to their family's health and wellness. And
mm.
it's like every family's got their own nurse practitioner. Well, how much do women know about this, that, and whatever else? So that's when I started to partner with not-for-profit health-related organizations focusing on women's health. And for example, heart disease is the leading cause of death for women, not cancer.
Okay.
Yep. And so Heart and Stroke Foundation, they're global. I started to partner with them because the symptoms of heart disease for women are quite different than they are for men, because a lot of the research over the years has been on men. And so my whole attitude, I'm not an expert on heart disease, but I am an expert on women informing themselves and increasing their awareness so that they can be the support that their family's expecting them to be. I mean, now if you've got any questions about heart disease, go to the Heart and Stroke Foundation and they'll answer your questions and they'll be happy to do that. But that's also when I did these events, I would charge a nominal amount, 25 or $50, and that then becomes a tax deduction in your whole income tax return. And so people are starting to see the benefit of that tax deduction. But to your point, once you're in a position where you can give or you can share, it enhances your own self-worth. And so that's where the connection between health and wealth, net worth and self-worth, and then philanthropy and legacy planning, because here we are 30 plus years later, and women are inheriting incredible amounts of wealth. They're earning more, but they're also inheriting more, with a whole lot more to come. And we see people like Melinda French Gates and Mackenzie Scott. They both have bagloads of wealth to steward. They could have kept it all to themselves and bought big yachts and taken big trips and, done whatever, but instead decided to be philanthropists. And we can see all the different things that they're doing. So, the whole scenario of women's wealth over that 30 plus period of time has changed considerably and is a really, really now a powerful force for goodness in the world.
You know what's so amazing about what you're saying? And I'm finding it's being redefined right now, but at that time, trying to push yourself or get a seat at the table in a very masculine world meant we had to let go of a lot of what it means to be a woman. And what actually happened was the superwoman archetype. I can do it all. I can hold a drill. I can raise kids on my own. And it just leads to burnout, which is
Correct.
again part of, the whole wellness thing that you're trying to drive. And only now, what I'm finding, well, let me speak for myself, is I'm doing that
Right.
now. Like, I do not have to be superwoman to be worthy. I do not have to, work like a man does because we're built very differently as well
Right.
to be worthy. What's your take on that? On the superwoman archetype, how it showed up in your work, and how it has evolved with the generations that you work with now?
Well, the one thing that I do not like is the frame work-life balance. Because at any given point in time, a woman will hear that and think, oh my God, how am I doing?
Right?
Oh my God, I feel like I just say you're the number one asset. You've got to have a lot of conversation with yourself daily. And all you do is prioritize. Like your priorities last night for today could end up being completely different than what happens as the day unfolds. So
Mm.
being smart women, reprioritize and reprioritize to a wellness factor. Reprioritize. Like what is most important right now? I know I said I was going to do this, but you know what? This is more important. This is more important. And so I'm awfully sorry to this person. Let's reschedule. I'll be there. But this has come up and this is something that I do that does need my attention now. So you're always respectful, but you're reprioritizing so that you are getting the best from your day-to-day life and so that you can give your best. Like if you end up going somewhere you don't want to be, but you're thinking about you should have been here, how much value are you providing to this place where you've boxed yourself into when you're thinking about this over here? So continual reprioritizing to make sure, is this the best? Is this the best for everyone? Not just you, but for everyone.
True. And just on that, I rescheduled our first podcast
You
because I
did,
wasn't
right.
feeling well. I felt so guilty about doing that, but I was like, if I'm going to show up and I'm feeling drained energetically and I'm not feeling well, it's also not respecting your time, right?
Correct.
But that whole concept of rest used to induce so much of guilt in the past. I'm finding it's changing now. Are you finding that that is changing?
Definitely. Never be guilty. Never feel guilty, really. Because if you're being true to yourself, there's no need to feel guilty. If you're being true to yourself and you're always being respectful
Mm,
of yourself, but of others with whom you are engaging, you don't need to feel guilty. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. So it's more talking to yourself that why would you feel guilty when this is what you chose to do? And play that through. And is that really so wrong? Was my choice really that bad? No, it wasn't. And it wasn't for these reasons.
mm. I love that reprioritizing to a wellness factor. Is that what?
Wellness, to your wellness factor, right? To your wellness.
Mm,
One podcast that I was on, the example that we had was you've now got a big opportunity in your corporate role for a presentation that you know will make you shine and probably give you fabulous rewards if it all goes well. But at the same time, your child has an event that you really should be at.
That's a no
Okay.
for me.
What's okay? So you go to your child's event, you miss this event, your competition gets the opportunity that you didn't. So
Mm,
you're kind of upset with yourself. On the other hand, you're still really, really rewarding yourself for the choice you did make because your child is just loving the fact that you were there. And guess what? Probably 6 to 12, even 2 years later, something amazing happens because you didn't go to that event. Maybe it was somebody that you interacted with at your child's event who remembers you and some big opportunity comes up and they're back. And then you rewind and you go, you know what? Had I gone and had I gotten that event with that company, I would never have had this opportunity. And you know what? In the total scheme of things, this is way better.
and it's about, like you said, being true to yourself when you're making
Right,
choices and decisions that are in alignment with who you are, with what you
right.
stand for, then life tends to flow a lot easier.
Accordingly, right.
Um, what is wellness, or no, not wellness rather, but wealth and worth mean for you outside of financial abundance?
Well, being worthy, again, is just knowing that you're a special person and that you do have a lot to offer. And everyone is worthy. Sometimes others will try to talk us out of it or talk us down, but you know who you are. You're a smart person and you're very, very, very worthy. So always remember that. And regardless of whatever your circumstances are, you've got an opportunity to be the best that you possibly can be. And I often emphasize, even though I encourage people to spend a lot of time talking to themselves, at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about who you are on the world stage and what value you're adding. And to the point that I mentioned earlier, often when you're adding value, it's coming back to you, which means you can now add that much more value. But always know that you're worthy, always know that you're a special person, always know that you've got a lot to offer, but always know you have to look after yourself. It's like the airline message. You've got to put the oxygen on yourself first. So you always have to do that. And doing that doesn't mean that you're selfish. It just means that you're able to add that much more.
Mm,
And that to me is true wealth. Often people get all wound up because they don't have this and they don't have that and they don't have this and they don't have that. But so what? It's like, so what now what? Just, unless you're going to win the lottery, that's never possibly going to be your reality. But so what? Be the very best that you can be with what you do have, including whatever wealth scenario you do have.
mm. You know what I am finding or the themes that I'm dealing with or integrating within myself right now, having just started a business at 47. So you said 40
Perfect, perfect,
was a
perfect.
big milestone. So it's never too late, right? But
No,
what I'm finding is, this traditional definition that I had of abundance was, a hard work, what my bank account looked like, what I could purchase, which stores I could go to, um, and that all defined my worth. It was some kind of external validation. And when I decided to start my own business, I gave that up. It was a few health scares actually. I had extremely high blood pressure, and then I realized it was just the environment, and I won't get into the details. But there were a few moments like that where I decided to choose myself.
perfect.
And now, in fact, this morning I had a panic attack about income and we are the clients, they're not coming. It's 3 months now. What am I going to do? Did I make So I went into the scarcity mindset again, and I find that there's a very different vibration when you are in trust. And as you say, as you are giving and looking after yourself, abundance then flows. It's not something you have to chase like your hockey player. They're not chasing
Correct.
the thing. Um, you choosing in alignment, and that's when the flow happens. And scarcity is very different. What's your take on scarcity versus abundance, and any advice you would give someone like me?
Okay, well, again, this has come up a few times, and I encourage people to live their life like a split screen. So when the scary stuff comes up, find a way to get it to fade to black. And more often than not, it fades to black when you focus on the positive. And that's when you've got to do a redirect. We all know about reset. Well, this is redirect. And you redirect where you say, you know what, Sarika, you deserve full credit for stepping out. Had you stayed where you were, that was not good. And so just give yourself all the credit in the world for having made that step to move on and to do something else that is going to be much better for you. And if you think back to that security that you had, always remember how awful that was, which caused you to make a decision to move on. So just focus on the positive, which is you've stepped out, and it's like, now what? Now what? Now, an organization that I was part of out of New York is called Women Presidents Organization. And I was a member in the first chapter in Canada. And what it is peer-to-peer confidential advisory. And so I would really encourage you to seek out those kinds of organizations. WPO is in South Africa, so you could Google it and find out where. Women
WPO, woman.
Women Presidents Organization, Women Presidents Organization, WPO in South Africa. And you'll know, I mean, the requirements are fairly high because they want to have members who are second stage business owners. So women who are already in the midst of scaling their business. They're not startups. But at the same time, if you see what they're up to and who possibly some of the members are, those would be great contacts for you to help you realize you keep on going. Like you've got a lot to offer. You're in a sweet spot. Maybe these are some things that you might want to consider. Maybe this is a person that you might want to talk to. But you know that women are more than happy to help other women, definitely. But I think it's really important as well that you pay attention to who you're taking advice from.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're so anxious for advice that you're taking advice from the wrong person. So understand who that person is and, take what they're recommending with a discerning mindset.
Mhm.
But keep on going and give yourself full credit for stepping out. The one thing that you're not going to do is step back to where you came from.
Right.
So that door is closed. That door is closed. It was what it was. Certainly there were times when it was terrific, but there were other times that it wasn't so terrific, and that's why you decided to move on. So full credit to you. It's like, okay, now what? That was the so what. Now it's now what? Now what am I going to do to keep on advancing? But what I'm not going to do is scare myself. Forget that. I don't have time to scare myself.
Yeah. I guess it's that transition period. And as an entrepreneur, you will
Yep.
probably relate. It's, a redefinition of your identity, of, like you said, from corporate to community, because the work, I'm doing now is healing. So it's very much community as well. Um, there's so many shifts that you go through. As a humanitarian entrepreneur, what advice would you give entrepreneurs that are just starting up?
Well, again, one thing that I really, really emphasize, both pertaining to your health and your wealth, is that you work with a trusted advisor. Now,
Okay.
your trusted advisor, you may have someone that you're currently working with, or if you don't, you may find one through your bank, because most women have a banking relationship with someone. And so, is there someone in your bank with whom you could talk? Maybe even through your bank, they've got a loan program. So maybe there's some financing opportunities. If that's so, then that may connect you with some other people as well. But a trusted, like you really want someone who has professional designations, professional expertise. But beyond that, you want somebody who cares about you and what you're trying to accomplish and is a champion for you and has your back. And sometimes that person's hard to find. So if you're with somebody that isn't ideal, then if you meet other women business owners, ask them with whom they are working. And maybe their advisor is someone that you can have a conversation with. But a trusted advisor, as you're just starting out and launching your business, is really, really, really important because they may tell you things that you haven't thought of, and you can very simply say, what else should I be thinking about? And they'll say, well, this is something that I would highly recommend. And this is a person with whom I will introduce you. So just keep going, just keep asking, just keep reaching out. Then often your bank is a great place to start because they've got all sorts of levels of resources within that banking system. There's the basic teller. You don't want the teller. Who's behind that person, blah, 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 and away you go.
I'm blessed that I've had a financial advisor since I was 23. I don't
Perfect.
know why I decided, but we have been together since then. And he actually helped me make this decision, when I called him and I said, Chris, can't do this anymore. So that's really good advice, actually. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even
Yep.
think about that. Is that something that Women Worth and Wellness does for women in the community still?
Yes. And the other thing is sometimes you outgrow your resource. So
Right.
that resource who has been fabulous, okay, now that I'm in this new role, are there other people with whom I should be meeting and talking to? Or you don't want to be disrespectful of this person because you're very appreciative of, 25 years that you've had with that person. Are there other are there other organization that that person knows of that you should what else should I be thinking about?
Mm,
Because your whole scenario is completely different now than it was previously. You still have that great financial base, but now you're, preserving that base as you go build your new business.
right.
Maybe he doesn't know about marketing and scaling. Maybe that isn't his specialty. So this is what you're doing. You're scaling your opportunity into something more than it is currently.
So the networking is incredibly important and being,
Oh, extremely,
yeah.
extremely important.
How do you um, build a brand, build a solid, authentic brand?
Well, my first career was at Procter and Gamble, And so when I was thinking of, what I was when it was sort of coming to um my vision, but what I was seeing in terms of connecting these, it really wasn't because they're two separate worlds. And so when I was connecting health with wealth, it was kind of, well, this is weird. But on the other hand, if you've got a proper wealth plan, that wealth advisor will have worked with you and anticipated health-related scenarios like a critical illness or a disability or premature death, whatever. They would have anticipated health-related scenarios going forward as part of that wealth plan to make sure that you're protected. So then I realized, you know what? If you don't have your health, you're not going anywhere anytime soon. And
Mm,
that's your mental health as well as your physical health. Because we get up in the morning and we just expect our bodies to take us where we want to go. Well, guess what? As soon as there's a showstopper, as soon as something happens, everything is focused on getting yourself back to that wellness stage so that you can get back to doing what you want to do. So health, I realized very quickly, is the first order of business, being healthy. How do we make sure that we're always as healthy as we possibly can be so that we can be the best that we want to be? And of course, a wealth plan, as I just mentioned, includes anticipating health-related scenarios.
right. And how long did it take you to get women worth and wellness to a point where of scalability, really? And
Act,
how did you get there?
right. Actually, I didn't answer your question. So the one thing I realized is it's I'm the brand, but the brand is the business. And
Mm,
so at any given point in time, at every point in time, whatever your brand name is, unless it is your name, it needs to be front and center. Always, always, always. So you always put the brand first because the brand is now a new entity that you have just created. It's not about you. It's about this brand. And then people will say, well, what is this brand? What's this all about? So that's why your business cards, everything that you have, has that brand front and center. And obviously, you're the spokesperson. You're doing the talking. You're determining who you're going to share that brand with and what its focus is. But the brand, then think of Procter and Gamble. Think of any company that you know that has really, really popular brands. The company's name isn't front and center. The brand is.
mm,
Tide detergent is Procter and Gamble brand, so it's Tide. It's not Procter and Gamble. People will say, "Well, who makes Tide?"
okay.
Oh, okay, it's Procter and Gamble. Well, that's a great company, whatever. But it's Tide that has its name front and center, not Procter and Gamble.
It's like Unilever as well with all their products. I never
Right.
thought of it like that. It was actually quite um, cognitively jarring for me in the beginning when someone said, when my advisor said, you're going to have to invoice your business for this. And I was like, huh? But I am the business. And then I realized, no, you actually two separate entities.
Right. Exactly.
I'm still working with that concept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you just be excited by that. That's very, very positive, and that's perfect advice.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's really good.
Um, what what else did women worth and wellness evolve into? Because I mean, you started this in 92, right? I'm sure since then there were many iterations of what the offering is. What has it evolved into for you now?
Well, we did, in Toronto, we have a hospital called Women's College Hospital. And so immediately I started working with them. And actually, I started their first golf tournament in 1994. And again, that was when women were earning more, so they're paying attention to the amount of money they have in investing in a wealth plan. But that's also when women really started to take playing golf seriously because it's kind of a corporate activity. And so I started their first golf tournament. I think we had 32 golfers, and I kept on going. And in 1997, we had 144 golfers, and I think about three men. Like it was just like a grass fire. It's like, oh yeah, this is great. It's also a time when, I mean, regulations have all changed in Canada, where the mutual fund companies like the Fidelities and the Templetons of this world could give you gifts to share. We had so much loot, literally. We had, and my assistant at the time, it's like, oh my God, so we ended up at the end having three separate flights of one, two, three, so we could get rid of this stuff. Like, I'm not taking this home. I'm not giving it to anybody. This is all part of this golf tournament. So my point is, the brand went out there and the brand had met its moment. Otherwise, these people wouldn't have been responding the way they did.
Mm,
And we gave out all, so, that was golf tournament. So didn't do golf for a while. Actually, women's college went through a challenging time where the province decided that it would become part of another hospital, Sunnybrook Hospital. So off women's college went over there. I did a golf tournament there, but it wasn't the same because it was part of a much bigger hospital. And what then happened was women, after about 5 years of this is ridiculous. We don't want to be part of that. We're unique. So they went back. And so by then the golf tournament idea had kind of gone by the wayside. But since then, I've worked with an advisor and we did four golf tournaments, 4 different years in another community. So it's still, but there are a lot of them now. My moment in time was then when a lot of women wanted to come to this tournament. So it's just getting the brand out. It's paying attention to what's going on right now and what topics are of interest that we should focus on. This spring, I picked up on menopause. I'm long past menopause, but I realized, you know what? During women's 40s, that's just when they've set themselves up to start to get some rewards from their positive leadership trajectory. And just as they're getting their legs and their recognition and, we're waiting for the reward, these symptoms kick in. Well,
mm,
the last thing you want to be is not feeling well or having stuff get in the way of your personal appearance. And I thought, I'm going to turn back. Is this one hospital, Mount Sinai in Toronto, came up with a fabulous campaign called Hot and Bothered, and they put it front and center. And so I picked up on it, did a virtual event, then did an in-person event, and then did an in-person event with a lady who has a high-end women's boutique. So kept it right there. And of course, the attitude that I had was, so what? So what if you're having a hot flash? So what? Like, keep going. Don't let this cause you to step back or step down because you're just in the process of getting your just rewards. And by the way, every single woman in this entire world who has lived this long is going to experience this. And so be a champion, put yourself front and center, and be a role model. Like, keep going. I actually was then invited to be a guest speaker at a financial conference where I knew it would be mostly men. And again, put it right out there. But of course, my husband at one point said, don't think this just applies to women. Men have it's andropause. So we talked about andropause, but andropause is not by any means even close to what women go through with menopause. So I did address it. Like, guys, I haven't forgotten about you. And furthermore, don't think this doesn't affect you because that's why they call it menopause. Like,
exactly.
oh my God. But
And
the whole,
also,
yeah, the whole idea, the whole attitude is women keep going, keep going. Don't let this stuff set you down.
it's not a death sentence.
No,
Yeah. In fact, you can look at the different stages of a woman from maiden to mother to crone. It's you're just building wisdom and gathering wisdom, and you become the elder and you become the matriarch. And it's actually something to celebrate, that
correct.
your body is doing for you.
Mhm.
Um, I love that. I'm so interested in how you just run with things. So you pick a topic and then you network
Push
with,
it.
pitching ideas, pushing it. What does a typical pitch look like with Nancy Griffin? If you've got an idea and you want to get it out there.
Well, I think it's really interesting because you'll often have a couple of people who are real champions for
Mm.
what you have in mind. And so sometimes you pick up on that, and then you really surround yourself with like-minded people. Like-minded people let you go forward with something more than just, you've had the idea, but then very quickly you need to have other champions that are going to help you enhance all of that. So think of people who are huge supporters of what you're doing. It's like your own advisory board. Ask them what they think. What about this? What about that? But then don't wait for things to be perfect. Just jump and go forward. Recently, in a couple of podcasts, that has been a message that has come up because I've had some ideas about what next. And what I'm hearing is don't wait until you've got the perfect next.
Mm.
Like jump in, and then you'll go on from there. But if you sit back and wait forever, you're still looking at exactly the same thing. So put a stake in the ground, make a move, and see what the response is. And often some things will get a much better response than another. And if the response wasn't positive, it's like, well, so what? At least I proceeded, I did
I
something.
know.
And that's not something that I'm going to, spend more time focusing on. On the other hand, you may find that 3 or 4 years later, that topic comes back again. It's like, oh my goodness. So, at any given point in time, you're just paying attention to what's going on. And also it has to be something that you feel strongly about in your own heart. Because you are the brand, as your advisor has told you. You are the brand. You're pushing the business. And recently, Women Worth and Wellness is kind of like, okay, what are we going to do now? And because I spent so much time talking about trusted advisors, I'm thinking, who is my trusted advisor? So I went to my virtual assistant, who's on the other side of the country in Canada. We've worked together now for 7 years. And so she's seen a lot of what we've done, and she sees people's response. Actually, I didn't ask her to build my website because she's really great on social media. But I did introduce her to the guy who was doing it. And
Mm.
then I was in on the conversation as she's sharing with him, blah, blah, blah. But the one thing that I remember her saying, which is so true, she said, Nancy knows absolutely everyone. And if she doesn't know them, she introduces herself to them. I thought that was so perfect.
I
And
love
actually,
that.
on that note, I have so many followers on LinkedIn. So make sure your profile on LinkedIn is fabulous. Because if people don't know who you are, the first thing they do is they search you out. I also do a lot of webinar. I participate in a lot of other webinars, and I will see who the guest speakers are. And immediately I reach out to them and they'll see my profile and then they sign on. So they're now in my whole contact group.
Your field.
Right. So make sure your LinkedIn profile is top notch.
Mm. I love what you're saying because it's really about planting seeds, you know,
Right.
and then you learn what's the best conditions for the seed. Is it the right time? Is the soil right? Do I need to, water it more? And that's what I am learning about being an entrepreneur is don't box yourself into one. And that's what I did in the beginning. I still had a very corporate mindset. And I thought, this is my offering, X, Y, and Z. And now it's evolving because I realize this is not what people are really biting, with this one. So let's move here. Let's try this. So, yeah, I love
And
that.
it takes time. And it takes time. It takes time because not everybody gets what you're offering as quickly as you want them to. But that doesn't mean that they don't like what you're offering. It's just not now. They may have other priorities, or it may not be a topic of interest for them right now, but it just takes time. So you'll continually do your research. and you'll continually do your offerings. But it's that 360 on an ongoing basis that lets you determine how to go forward.
Mm. And playing the long game. And as you said, even if an idea doesn't work out, at least you learned what doesn't work for
Right.
now.
I'm a big, big fan of this.
The 80% approach.
There, can you read that?
The solution it offers is so simple and obvious. Yes, I can.
And this is from an organization called Strategic Coach. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I was a participant in their program, and that's when I knew because they teach you how to bring your uniqueness forward. And once you've done that or once you're doing it, put a trademark on it. So this is just one of the things that they go on. It's called Strategic Coach, and this Dan Sullivan is incredible. Really, really incredible. So you can Google him. Yeah, and just, he's sending stuff all the time, all the stuff. And obviously he wants you to be a participant in his program. He's in London, he's in LA, he's in Toronto, lots of cities in Canada. I don't know if he's in South Africa, but there will be others who are similar to
Mm-hmm.
that. I met this one lady. She's somebody that you can Google with. She was a guest speaker on a webinar, and her whole thrust is, what is your purpose? What is your purpose as a person? And what is your purpose in your business? And she's also pointing out that this is something that corporations are really starting to engage with to a much greater extent. You may have experienced that in your corporate role, that what is the purpose of this organization?
I did. In fact, in one of my first roles, I struggled with that because I couldn't understand the why. And
Hmm.
if you don't understand the why, it's very difficult to motivate teams and shop floor employees to give of their best because they're not connecting to a why. They're not
Right.
connecting to why it's so important for them to follow this work instruction step by step and what the consequence is if it's not followed in that way. So purpose for me was always extremely important from a
There
change
you go.
management perspective.
Mhm.
It's how you explain your why.
Right.
Um,
So that's your business building opportunity for your brand.
the I missed you.
That's your business building opportunity for your brand. For your business and its brand,
Mm-hmm.
what is its purpose?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
And it sounds like such a simple question, but when you have to define it, you really have to dig deep to ask, what it is you want to bring into this world for this world, which is what, you did with woman worth and wellness. And what I love is that it's always, the way you speak, it's always for the benefit of the community, for the benefit of the woman you're working with. I I haven't heard you say anything about this was, something you wanted to build, and you've become so successful in that giving. Um, I guess it comes back to self-worth, right? And what are some of the things that have helped you with your self-worth and building your self-worth and sustaining that?
I think we all, I think this could be a wrong statement. I was just going to say, I think we're all brought up to know the difference between right and wrong. I think we probably know more often than not what is wrong than what is right. And I think having that attitude of what's right and what's wrong in all of your interactions is really, really, really crucial. Really crucial. I ran into a situation a couple of years ago where it was a tall poppy syndrome. I don't know if you know that, but Google it. And it's when somebody comes along that's a threat to a person who's already there, they've got to take that person out. Happens in corporations all the time, happens personally. In corporations, it's a shame because more often than not, the person that's being attacked just leaves. It's like,
Mm,
well, I'm not going to put up with this, but if I turn back and try to deal with it, I'm going to lose because that person has more seniority than I do.
right.
Anyway, this is exactly what I had. I just arrived in this charitable organization, and this person who had been there for 35 years, who I guess had been a terror and nobody had dealt with them, then I did. And it was a big dust up. It was a huge dust up. Anyway, that person ended up resigning, and there was a lot of controversy around it. But the person who was the chair of the board at the time, who hated controversy and had to deal with this, and it was me standing up for what was right. I'd been invited to move into a leadership role, and this person did not like that one bit. Anyway, resigned. The chair of the board said, well, actually, that person lit the fuse. I thought that summed it up perfectly. In other words, that person started it, and I simply stood up for what was right, and their behavior was totally wrong. They resigned, and then I kept on going and have won awards since then because of my leadership. But at the time, it was terrible. But the only thing, and when I look back, I am so proud of myself. There's the I, because it was what was right and what was wrong. And the person with the most seniority, who knew the majority of people, I stood up to. And then others thanked me for doing that. So right back down to what's right and what is wrong.
And
So important.
and that does build your self-worth because when you
It
are
does. Exactly. Exactly. But then the important thing is don't get ahead of yourself. Like, don't think just because that worked and you took on a really difficult situation that you're going to go out and keep on slaying demons all over the place. It's like, give it a break. Like, that was great. Let it be. And don't even talk about that person. Like, don't keep on repeating the fact that, you won the day because of your actions. Let it go. Let it go. It's a better world because it all happened. Carry on.
I never thought of it like, from that point of view. And as you said, right, wrong is different for many people, but I know that when I know that I'm doing something that goes against my values or beliefs or what is right and what is wrong, it brings in so much shame, and guilt, and that erodes. That's the stuff that really erodes your self-worth because if you can't trust yourself to do the right thing, um, who else is going to trust you?
Right.
So I've never thought of self-worth from that perspective. So thank you for that.
And integrity. Integrity is all about doing the right thing when nobody's watching.
Exactly.
You're watching, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can push it down and distract yourself and numb it only so long. It comes back to bite you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And haunt you forever. And those feelings are worse than any feeling of guilt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you've done the wrong thing.
Yeah. So with 5 minutes to go, I'm conscious of your time and respectful of your time. You're a busy woman. What's next for Nancy? Oh, I asked
Well,
the what's next question. You don't like that question.
there you go. There you go.
Ah,
I Well, this, it's a really, really, really good question. Really good question. But going back to my 80% advice,
yeah.
definitely I'm going to do something. I've had this summer with a lot of these podcasts, and I've had a blast because I've been interviewed by people who are doing podcasts all over the world. And it's always a sweet spot conversation. Like, it's amazing because you're connected with primarily women, although I've connected with a couple of men. And it's just been spot on. It's really been spot on. So that in itself is really, really inspiring, really inspiring. really inspiring to the point of you have to keep on doing what you have been doing and keep on doing more of it, possibly in new areas that you feel are opportunities that you want to spend some time on.
Mm,
So this is what I'll sort out this fall, and that's why I've encouraged people to send me an email. So then you go into our database. If you're in our database, you'll hear about what we're up to next.
please add me to your database.
Okay, I will. I definitely will. I definitely will. And then let the fun begin.
Did you find with all the podcasts that you did that the conversations were different?
They were. Actually, I'll tell you one question that I was asked, which was reinforced again yesterday. The question was, tell me something that you've given up that you're happy you did. I said, well, that's an interesting question. And then I said, golf. They said, golf. I was surprised that was my response. And I said, yes, because it takes too long.
Yeah, yeah.
It takes too long. And I was new in this community 5 years ago, and I did go golfing. And of course, the women that I golfed with, I'm new. So all they want to do is talk to me. Well, all I want to do is play golf.
Hey,
You can't
golf.
play golf and talk at the, and you don't want to be rude and say, well, let's talk later. Anyway, it's too, so yesterday I was in a golf tournament and it was pouring, pouring, pouring rain. And the team that I was with, we just happened to get to the clubhouse when the rain really, really came down. Most kept golfing, and I think we would have if we'd been at the back end of the golf course. But we were right there at the clubhouse and we looked at one another and said, do you want to go on? No. And I went, do you want to go on? Forget it. Anyway, it was a terrific golf tournament, but I thought again about my response and thought, no, I'm not missing this game at all and wishing, oh my God, I've got to get out here and have a couple of games before the snow flies. No, I'm happy. I'll go in a tournament, but I'm not going to be out there on a weekly basis.
Parting words of advice for women and empowerment.
Well, whatever age you are, whatever your circumstances are, as long as you're alive, you've got a new opportunity. You've always got an opportunity, and you always are the number one asset. So really, really, really go out of your way to look after yourself. And that doesn't mean you need to be blatant or disrespectful. It just means that when you're having your morning coffee, have a talk with yourself. How am I doing? What's concerning me? What are my priorities? Is this the right direction that I want to go in? You're just continually having a conversation with yourself and reprioritizing as necessary to make sure that you are always at the very best you possibly can be. One of my closest friends recently, who I knew sort of 40 years ago, she is just so positive and so giving, so generous, so kind all the time. I've seen her in so many different circumstances. She's always just a blessing to be close to. So again, surround yourself with positive people. I said my two priorities with anybody I'm going to spend time with is that they're generous. That doesn't just mean with money. It means a generous spirit and that they have a sense of humor. If you've ever spent time with humorless people, it's like, or people who are not generous, it's like, why? Why? It's painful. So I mean, and again, that's talking to yourself. It's like, what are my priorities? My priorities are people who are generous and people who have a sense of humor.
I know I said that was the last question, but I really have to ask you this because your mom was a trailblazer as well.
She
And
was.
I said advice for women, and then I thought of your mom and I thought of our daughters. Um, would you say that was a huge influence on
Oh,
how you
big,
are
huge, 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 huge.
and
And
how
every day, she died a long time ago. She died in 1990s. And actually, I was sorry that she had died before I got into this business because she was an investor. And a lot of who she was and what she did were my inspiration. And I think of her every day. I do. I mean, it's almost like you're continuing the work that she started and you're sort of honoring her with the way you behave. And it's wonderful. But she died in 1990, so that's what, 35 years ago. hard to believe that somebody's been gone that long. But no, huge inspiration. I think everybody's mother is an inspiration when you imagine the life that they worked their way through and what they dealt with and how they dealt with it. And I think you'll see a lot of positivity in there. I often, now it's back to school time, I think about every day, she always sent us with terrific lunches. And sometimes you looked at the lunch and you thought, I'm not going to eat that. Like, why am I getting this? But of course, she put it in there because it was something healthy for you. So don't be so disrespectful. I don't think I ever threw it out. That would be terrible. I'd probably give it to somebody else. But, like think of all the things they did with your best wellness in mind, really.
Yeah. And I suppose that would be the advice for moms with daughters then as well. It's who you are, not so much, well, it's very important, what you do, but what I'm hearing you saying is it was who she was
Right.
that set the example, for you. That's so beautiful.
And had a great sense of humor. She really did. She motored along. She worked really, really hard. She had her own homemade jam business and worked really, really hard to make sure it was a perfectly pure product, no additives. And so, and she loved that. She just loved doing that. So, working hard, doing what you love to do. And, any jar of jam, she was so proud of it because she had created everything. The jar, the label, the ingredients, where she was selling it, all of that. That was her brand. Yeah. So this is all of what you are creating right now. So when you get those panic attacks, just fade to black and focus on the positive, which is good for you. You're doing what you're doing, and just keep on going. Keep on going. Actually, Winston Churchill, a quote that I often use is that when you're going through hell, keep going. Right.
That's a good quote.
It is.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I feel like this was a personal coaching session. So I loved it. Thank you for being here and for sharing your story and for the work that you do, for the blessing that you are to women everywhere. And I'm sure it's not just, and what I love about Woman, Worth and Wellness, WWW, it's like symbolism for the world, WWW, World Wide Web. That's exactly what you're casting. It's like this web of support and empowerment, which is such powerful work and is so needed. So bless you for that. And I'm excited to see what's next.
Hey, well, we'll definitely stay connected and you'll be in my database and you will see, and we will stay connected for sure because I want to keep in touch with all you're doing.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
And for the listeners, if you have any comments, please share them with us. I'll post, is it all right if I post your email and
Please,
links
please, please do. Please.
in the description box if you'd like to reach out to Nancy or to find out more about what she does and how you can help? Um, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And thank you again.
And likewise, likewise. Well done. Good work. Thank
Thank you.
you, my dear.
Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye.